Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of the Boks Office, sponsored by Investec, leading international bank and wealth managers. Skalkberger and Jean de Villiers are up on the West Coast getting up to all sorts of rubbish, but it wasn't a good weekend for the South African teams in the Investec Champions Cup. We've got two new additions. They've been on the Boks Office before, rugby royalty in itself, Nick Mallet and Robbie Fleck back at Bishops for the Boks Office, which is now open. Nick, Flecky, thanks guys. Welcome to the Boks Office. Welcome again.
Thanks.
Nick, I think you were here a while ago. Flecky, you've been a regular guest to replace the other centre.
Yeah, I'm the better version.
Explain your outfit though. I mean, you look like you're about to go onto Miami Vice or something.
December, summer in Cape Town. You know.
I like the white tackies. Yeah.
Thank you. They're a bit dirty though.
Yeah,
The king of Komiki.
You're not too old for those. No, you're okay.
No. I'm keeping it youthful, Nick.
I noticed.
Nick, is that a designer thing or are you trying to get Monty's calves?
Just sympathy. You're a sympathy vote for Christmas. You know, get more presents if you walk around with us. No, it's operation 3 weeks ago. Fusion, ankle fusion, a combination of rugby and walking without orthotics. If you don't have orthotics,
explain the walking, Nick. There's walking and then there's your walking.
So walking up. I came back after coaching Italy, and I was doing a talk for Discovery, and the guy said to me, "We've got a free medical here for you." And I said, "I'm 100%. You don't have to worry about me. I've got I'm fit as a fiddle." You know. He said, "Well, it's free. You might as well do it." And he came out and he said, "You're 10 kilograms overweight and you've got high blood pressure." So I said, "Well, your machine's clearly not working." You know? So he said, "No, it is working, and you need to do something about it." So he said, "What's your exercise regime?" And I was going and doing cross trainer and gym. And he said, "No, you can't do that. You've got to double the time and halve the intensity." So he said, fast walking over a long period of time is your best bet. So I thought I'd do it for a month, and if it didn't work, then I knew I was right. And unfortunately, he was right. It actually works. So I had to set a long-term goal. The long-term goal was walking around the world, and the circumference of the Earth around the equator is 40,075 kilometers, Shimmie. Divide that by 10 years times 365, and it came to 10.9 kilometers a day. And so I set out with that, and then I thought this is too easy, so I thought I'd do it in 9, and then I eventually did it in 8. So I walked around the world in 8 years, but unfortunately I walked off all the cartilage on my left ankle as well. So I've had an ankle fusion, tibia to the ankle joint, and got another 2.5 months to go.
Recovering nicely. What does Discovery say about your body fat?
No, not that.
What does it say about your cholesterol?
No, I'm actually perfectly healthy.
Just COVID got you.
No, it just says surf more.
Is it?
It says, yeah.
And you're surfing a lot?
Plenty.
Plans for Christmas?
Surfing.
What about the family?
I'm
What about the boys?
No, we're going to spend Christmas in Komiki, and then we're going to go up to St. Francis on the 26th and spend a bit of time there. Lots to do there. A little bit of golf, some surf, some fishing. My older boy is getting a bit more social, so he's going to be out in town.
It's very good for the kids, St. Francis.
Yeah. So it's great fun, yeah. So, I'm preparing for that.
What did you get up to matric when you matric?
Not much.
Did you go to St. Francis?
No, Shimmie. We went to, in those days, it was Hermanus. It was just down the road, and that's where all the guys went. Plet, Hermanus, but never St. Francis. St. Francis is a new thing, for us, certainly. But there's more to do there.
Yeah.
Hermanus, you used to be an Hermanus man, weren't you?
No, my sister's got a place there, but we went to the same time you going. We went to St. Francis.
Yeah.
Bruce's Beauties, aren't there some good surf spots?
Yeah, they built the port there, and it took all the natural waves away. Yeah, but it's more seals, and but it's now the kids dominate where you go as parents, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
they're the ones who tell you you're going to St. Francis, so you book and you go.
Nick, you picked Flecky for the first time for the Boks, isn't it? Was it Nick? No.
Yes.
It was, eh? Yeah, it was. I played him at inside centre for the first time in his life as well. Scored 2 tries against the All Blacks. Great game, eh? Yeah, my second last game as a coach, thanks.
I think it was my second last game. My second last game as a player. Because when you went, I went.
Was that Ellis Park?
Yeah.
Yes,
The Ellis Park test, the high scoring one against the All Blacks.
No, I tell you, Nick actually identified me quite early. I was playing still for UCT in Western Province under 20s, and Nick wanted me to come to the Boiland, remember?
Yeah.
And it was a big sort of debate in our household, but I was keen to stay at Western Province and make a name for it and fight it out. And I was probably, I don't know, 8th choice at that stage. And Nick was offering a good opportunity there. But thankfully, I stuck it out. And then Nick, actually, your next job was the Springboks, right?
Yeah,
And
after
then-
Boland, yeah.
Yeah, and then Nick, I got elevated to Springboks.
You would have had more fun with me, eh?
No, I know
Boland.
that. I know that. I think you beat us at Newlands, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. We
Yeah.
did, actually, yeah. Yeah.
So, yes. I played for the midweek side on my first tour in, when was that, Nick?
97 or 98?
Sorry, 98, that's
98,
right.
yeah.
98, I was in the midweek side, and then the following year, I got selected against Italy.
It was a good midweek side though.
It was
That was
probably
one of
the
the
strongest
Slobom
midweek
Boom
side we've had in a
Very,
long time.
Very. Beat Glasgow Warriors by 70 and beat, I think, Edinburgh by 60, 70.
Yeah.
We played Ireland A, which was basically their second best team, and 50 points.
Yeah.
Put them past. It was a very, very strong.
So there were a number of test players, starting players that were coming in between the two sides. So, and Nakadrowski was one, Andre Fenter another one, Ollie Leroux.
Yeah.
And, we were a bunch of young guys coming through the ranks. We were all part of that young Western Province Stormers side. And we actually, it was, SA Rugby at that stage was quite strong.
Yeah.
I think you were on a 18 test run?
It was part of that generation.
It was
We lost to
17.
England.
We lost to England in the 18th
Yeah,
game. Yeah.
that's right, yeah.
Tell me, you're back in the hot seat now, Flecky, just in terms of your coaching. Every year you tell me you're not going to coach. You're back head coach of UCT. I see Tom's written a book also now. Quite a good book, actually, called Human Ball.
Yeah.
Are you going to write a book when you're done?
No.
Nick, you've never written a book, eh?
Well, I did about the Rugby World Cup, and I was pretty accurate, so I'm very happy about that. Thanks for asking, Shimmie. It sold 12 copies, and I bought them all.
That's my concern. That's my concern. I'm going to sell 3, and my old man's going to buy one, my old lady's going to buy the other
They're
one.
good Christmas presents.
Yeah.
He's written a book about, he's actually reading it, it's actually very good. I was thinking about you obviously being involved, but it's nice to see the working with the young players, and it changes so quickly. I mean, remember when I think you were still coaching when Damien Dalinda was playing for UCT.
Yeah.
Look where he is now.
It's
a bit Siya Kolisi, all those guys coming.
Look, it's an incredible competition, and I'm so happy that it's getting the kudos that it's getting. Tony Brown recently, said some comments about Varsity Cup and how successful it's been for South African rugby, because there's a number of players and coaches that have gone through Dobbo from Varsity Cup to
Andre Pollard also.
Exactly. So there's Ibn Etzebeth played. I mean, so there's a number of guys who have made that transition, and for Tony Brown to recognise that, and they were speaking about in New Zealand in their show about how important it was to get a similar sort of competition to nurture young talent and not go straight from schoolboy into like a premier competition.
Yeah.
Where Varsity Cup is nurturing, super, hot talent and coaching talent. So it's a great competition.
Yeah. Guys, let's get down to business now. Champions Cup, Investec Champions Cup. We'll start. Where do we start, Nick? I thought maybe you hurt your leg kicking the TV on the weekend. But where do we start?
That was a shocker, man. It was just a dreadful weekend for South Africa. It started off with the Bulls, I think, wasn't it? 3 o'clock game. Yeah. Nice hot day, and everyone thought, okay, Northampton going to struggle a little bit. Bulls were all over them territorially and possession. Couldn't hold on to a pass, couldn't create a try, and ended up losing the game 30-20, which was no one really had anticipated that result. And you could see by the Northampton Saints players after the game, I mean, it felt like they'd won the World Cup. They were so happy. So very, very frustrating from the Bulls' point of view. And then 2 very weak sides being sent over by the Sharks and the Stormers and getting 50 points each. So, just a really disappointing weekend. And, there are lots of things we need to talk about here, just about the relevance of this competition for South African teams. If we aren't able to pick our strongest side to play in the strongest competition, what's the point? So, you're getting sides like Ireland that would pick Sexton only for European Cup games and internationals, and he wouldn't play URC games. We're playing our Springboks to try and get into this European Cup, and then we take our Springboks out when they go and play an away game in an Investec Champions Cup, and that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, Flecky, we heard the Leinster coach. Remember, we'd always say Leinster complain, URC, why is he bringing an academy team, young players? And he said, wait till you guys play in the Investec Champions Cup, and you have to fight a war on both fronts. Now, are we maybe getting it wrong in terms of not selecting our main team for the Investec Champions Cup, and URC looking at that with probably your other squad?
So what is the premier competition in the world, right? in the
Investec Champions Cup.
Yeah.
So surely we should be
Yeah.
targeting that competition. I mean, without a doubt, it's better than Super Rugby these days. It's better than the top 14 English Premiership, URC, everything. So we should be trying to win that competition. That is the premier club competition in the world. And we're playing against the best team, the best coaches. So let's plan for that. So I get that. I agree with Nick. Why are we not targeting that competition? Because we're certainly capable of winning it.
Yeah.
And I know there's lots into the travel or whatever, but it's still early days in the competition. We've only really travelled once. But we're losing home games and we're losing games overseas that we should be winning. I mean, obviously the Stormers are quite depleted, but surely they should be focusing on putting a very, very strong team together to win this competition. They've won the URC, and it's proven that South African teams are dominating the URC. Surely we can
Compete in this.
compete in this and lose one or two URC teams and rest our players to be able to compete in both.
We're missing a very important point, and that is that we play the year round. The Springboks play all year round. You know, the URC and the Investec Cup players, they go on a July tour to the Southern Hemisphere. Then they put their feet up for end of July, August, and they kick off slowly in September. Halfway through, the guys start playing again. Our blokes go straight into the Rugby Championships after the July tour. And it's tough. You're 2 against Argentina, 2 Australia, 2 against New Zealand, and on top of that, you're having alignment camps all over the place. So your Springboks, now the squads that he takes to the alignment camps, 45 players, Rassie.
Yeah.
So the guys are getting just flooded with rugby at the moment. And any international player, when he comes back from the Northern Hemisphere tour at the end of the year, must just want to say, I don't want to see a rugby ball or a coach or a rugby field for another 2 months. Just give me December and January off completely. And we can't do that. We just don't do it, because you come back and the franchises now have got a knife to the throat. They're saying, why aren't we winning? You know, we need to get guys in. The stadiums need to be full over Christmas. We've got to play our Boks. You know, you cannot whip the horse, all year round.
Yeah. Nick, talking about the fans and all of that. I mean, you played with Stade Francais under Max Giazzani,
Yes,
am I right?
it's Guazzini.
But Guazzini, sorry. But a marketing guru, I mean, he changed sort of what rugby marketing looked like. What was that experience?
Well, you know what was really interesting? My first year, we did really well, and we were top of the top 14 or top whatever it was in those days. We were leading that, so we were going to definitely have we were going to have get into a semi-final. And then we got into the quarterfinals of the European Cup. And I had not a delegation, I actually just had Fabien Galtier, who I was coaching at Stade Francais. And he came to me and he said, Nick, we're going to have to choose. So I said, what do you mean we have to choose? He said, we're going to have to choose whether we want to win the French Championship or whether we want to try and win the European Cup. We don't have the squad to do both. And I said, but surely, and he said, I've been here before, we've tried, Toulouse have tried, everyone. It's very, very hard to do the double, very hard. And so I said, well, what would the players prefer to win? And they said, we'd prefer to win the French Championship, actually. It means a lot of our players haven't won this French Championship. So we said, okay, well, you know, we didn't put a reserve team, but the focus was more on making sure we were the best we could be in the top 14. And I think we lost at Munster away. I think it was 36-32 or something, a really good game of rugby. And the guys were almost relieved when they got onto the plane. They said, right, now we can focus only on our local championship. And that's a problem. It really is a problem for this competition. I think that being such a strong competition, it needs to have a space somewhere. There's 2 weeks now, then we don't play for a while, then 2 weeks in January, 2 games in January, then we don't play for a while. So only in April we say, what's this last 16 of what, you know?
Yeah.
It needs a time period of 6 weeks where just focus on the Investec Cup.
Yeah.
So would the French clubs have a similar view today, though? Because, I mean, Toulouse are definitely looking to win both.
Yeah.
La Rochelle definitely looking
Toulon
to
won
win
both. Remember, Toulon had that Galactico.
And Leinster's the same. So.
But also then, I just think rugby's changed now, where your GM or your director of rugby, whoever does recruitment, is probably the most important part of that organisation, because you can only win. You look at the teams that have won it, the Toulon squad, the Saracen squad, when it was a third of the Springbok team or a lot of Springboks. You look at Toulouse now, it's the French under-21s, French probably starting team.
Was
and
back
B
in the
team.
day.
Was back in the day. You
La
almost,
Rochelle,
the GM.
La Rochelle only concentrated on the Champions Cup. They haven't won. La Rochelle haven't won the French Championship.
top 15, yeah.
So they've really focused on that.
Yeah.
But Flecky, going back, if you think about with the Springboks squad that we had in '98 and that Rassie has at the moment, we could have gone on that tour in '98 and said, let's do a mix and match for each of the tests we played, you know? Young guys, 5 or 6 young guys into an experienced group and do what Rassie's basically done.
Yeah.
And I think we'd have come out of it better. But you had to explain to the players who were being left out, this is to prolong your career instead of being dropped. In those days, everyone thought they were dropped if you didn't start a game for the Springboks. So if you have a squad like the Sharks do at the moment, they've got a Springbok starting lineup. But then outside, you take all those 12, 13, 14 players out, that reserve group took 50 but from Leicester.
Yeah.
So clearly there's a massive gap between the two. And what you have to be able to do is you have to have a blend, you know, a blend of experience and good up-and-coming players. But no good up-and-coming player is going to stay in a franchise, Shimmie, if he's blocked by a Springbok, is he?
Yeah.
You know, if you're wanting to play scrum off and you've got Williams and you've got Williams and you've got Hendrickse there.
Yeah.
I mean, are you going to be the third guy waiting for the occasional game in the URC? Probably not.
Yeah. But I mean, Nick, you look at, okay, let's talk about the Bulls. You mentioned Saints against the Bulls. Now, you look at year-on-year improvement. Are the South African teams improving? Because you consider, you mentioned Springboks, Rassie, what he's done, they've brought in Tony Brown, they've innovated, we're almost like a triple threat to an all-core team. Have the South African teams innovated enough year-on-year? Or are they improving?
So I don't think they have, but before we get to that, I think, I had a little chat to Dobbo about his mindset around this European Championship, and he was saying it's going to take them time to adjust, and they have to go through these painful years of, get right in URC, get comfortable in that competition, but then this is for them it's brand new, and they're going to have to develop a squad over time to compete so that like you say, you can interchange those teams, but right now, the level of rugby that's been played, if I look at Toulouse, Bordeaux, La Rochelle, and the attacking threat that they've got, they're giving teams and well-established teams 50, 60 points on a weekly basis. Have we improved over time? No, definitely not. I don't think we can compete with those guys. Even if we have our full-strength sides, you're looking at some of those French sides, they're amazing and extremely well coached. Great tactics, but they've advanced their game so far. I mean, the question that I asked you guys, over the WhatsApp group, how are we defensively at the moment? Then I was actually thinking, well, actually, the real challenge is how do we stop this attack?
Yeah.
How do we get as well as they are in attack? Leinster, Glasgow.
Yeah.
I mean, Glasgow are a phenomenal attacking side. The attacking game has advanced so much where I feel that defence has probably remained the same. So they've been quite innovative in their approach.
If you look at the way in which our South African teams played this weekend, it didn't matter that we had young sides. The problem I saw time and time again in the Bulls game, Sharks game, and the Stormers game. Inaccuracy of passes, skills levels were dreadful. I mean, the passes were up here by the guy's head. They would push passes which weren't on. The guy would be running across the field and not fix his defender. The lines of running of the ball carrier and the support player were completely wrong. I can just take one example of the scrum off for Quins.
Danny Kerr.
Danny Kerr, thank you. Danny Kerr had a line break, and there was a 3-on-2. He ran into a space where there wasn't a defender, but he forced that player to square his shoulders. He then threw a skip pass in front of the second last defender, or the last defender, and the guy walked over. There isn't a South African player that could do that apart from Willie Leroux on a good day. There's no one else.
But I mean, we look at the quality of surely we can't continue, just for the sake of the Investec Champions Cup, to have South African teams sending weakened teams there.
No.
I mean, I think Dobbo mentioned it, I'll read it here, that we don't want to go back to the disastrous Curry Cup of the 80s, which you played in.
Yeah. What's wrong with that? 1-5 in a row.
1-5. But I mean, for South African rugby, we need to start competing. Otherwise, European fans will always travel there. There'll always be South African fans in London, wherever it is around the world. But for them to come down here, they generally don't get a crowd unless it's a playoff game.
As a rugby fan myself, I love the Investec European Championship. It is the premiership competition. Those are the games that I love to watch.
It's a good weekend of rugby.
100%, because of the likes of Leinster, because of Toulouse. I mean, the rugby that those guys play is phenomenal rugby. And as a rugby purist, I love watching them play. I can't wait for Leinster or Toulouse to come to Cape Town to play the Stormers. I think it's vital that our South African teams take this competition seriously and compete at the highest level.
Yeah.
It can only benefit South African rugby. It can only help Rassie and the Springboks that we're upskilling our players and our coaches to compete at the very best.
So what it would take the coaches of the franchises to say, we are going to send our Springbok-laden first team to every Investec Cup game. Instead, they think, we don't want to lose to the Bulls on Saturday. Saturday's coming. Sharks are playing the Bulls on Saturday. We don't want to lose to those guys. That doesn't feel good. So we're going to send a reserve-ish team to Leicester, and we're going to save our Springboks for the Bulls game. Now, the moment we have that attitude, that the local derby is more important than the Investec Cup, then we're not taking it seriously.
Yeah. But then, Fleck, okay, what's the solution? I mean, you look at the recruitment, for example, Leinster, signed Archie Snyman and Jordie Barrett. That says a lot.
Yeah, and I guess the South African teams can't do that, right?
Yeah.
Is that through budget? So there's a challenge there in itself. But, I mean, the Sharks and the Bulls are pretty strong squads.
Squads, yeah.
100%. I mean, the amount of Springboks they got in those... Look, the Stormers have been severely affected by injury, especially with their Springbok players. So there's almost like a... You know, you can sort of look, a little bit beyond that. But the other two are very well-established teams, and they should be competing at the top level. Yes, it's the same thing when I was in Bath at the UK. They all used to moan about the French clubs having these untapped, budgets, and they can get all these players. But still, you can compete, and was still at that stage. Bath had a bigger budget than was, but they were winning the European Championship. Yeah. So it is possible.
Saracens did it when they got the under-the-table stuff. They managed to win the league.
No, but you go through that Saracens team, though. It was a young Itoje. It was a young up-and-coming England Jamie George with a John Smith, Skalkberger, Brad Barrett, Farrell.
I think it's all about how you view the competition. If our sides took it very seriously and they understood the importance of winning this competition, they can do it. They certainly can do it.
Flecky, the budget that the Sharks, that the Stormers have in comparison with Toulouse, for example, or Toulon. I mean, it's just. I mean, I think maybe a third of the budget. And even in South Africa, the Bulls and the Sharks have bigger budgets than the Stormers. I mean, there was a rumor going around that the Sharks' pack of forwards cost more than the entire Stormers' budget. So there is a lot of money going on, but they're South African players. They are able to get in. You make a point about Barrett and Archie Snyman. They feel we just need to get world-class players to take that step up to win the Investec Cup. And so they take Munster's Archie Snyman and they said, you're a world-class player, and Barrett's world-class player. I mean, you cannot imagine the Sharks being able to do that, taking Dupont, say, we're going to win the thing, we're going to pay Dupont. It'll never happen.
Yeah. The Sharks obviously send their team to Leinster. Are Leinster 50 points better than the Sharks, though? Even with that weak and young team?
It depends on the way you play.
I mean, the final score was 56-17 against Leicester, sorry.
Leicester.
Yeah.
No, Leicester should not be 56 points ahead of a young Sharks side, no.
There's a way in which you play when you go to defend a score. And both the Sharks and the Stormers sent teams that were unlikely to win there. If you're unlikely to win, but if you're unlikely to win, then you've got to give them a way in which they can lose with dignity. And the way they played, both the Sharks and the Stormers, was brainless. You can't run the ball against teams that are much better than you at running the ball. That's what they want you to do. Harlequins want the Stormers to run the ball, and they're playing against an inexperienced team. They make a number of mistakes, the Stormers, and the Quins score 50 points. Exactly the same in the Sharks against Leicester. So what you had to do is you say we're taking a young team, but we're going to make sure we're within 10 points here. We're going to play a kicking game. We're going to put pressure on you. We're going to not run the ball. It's going to be box kicks from 9 and 10. We're going to get our defence in your face. We're going to drive mauls. You're going to play some negative Northern Hemisphere style method. We didn't see that. We didn't see that from either of those two teams.
And if you're 10 points with 10 minutes to go, you've got a chance.
You're in the mix. You've got a chance.
Precisely. But if
but then you're not advancing in terms of the way you want to play the game. To your first question about, are we advancing, improving as teams over the last couple of years? And I guess that's the challenge, right? Because if you want to advance your game to the attacking threat that all these top teams have got, you can't go in there with a negative mindset just to survive.
No, but I'm just saying it's like playing Boland and you're playing against the All Blacks. I wasn't going to get 50 points when I coached Boland that day, and we made sure that we lost, I think it was 24-18 or something, 26-18. You can actually coach a team which is far weaker to come out of it with credit.
Yeah.
But when you've got your Springboks, when the Stormers have their full Springbok side, and when the Sharks have their full Springbok side, you should be going away to Toulouse with your full Springbok and say, we're going here to beat you guys.
So Nick, if you were the director of rugby of Stormers or whatever, the boss there, I mean, what competition would you focus on to get the best return, to keep your fans and your stakeholders happy?
Well, the owners, and to make sure that your local fans are happy, you have to win your home games.
Yes.
So you've got to win your ones at the Cape Town Stadium. So your tendency is to focus on that URC because you can fill the stadium, you get a nice however many games there. And with this competition, after the first weekend whether you're in it or out. I mean, the Stormers not going to be involved after the next two games.
So now they can focus.
They can focus on the one. So when you've gone through a situation which John Dobson has, where he's lost, I think, 9 or 10 Springbok players who would all be starting in an Investec home game if he had the choice. You have to cut your coat according to the cloth, and unfortunately at the moment they just don't. They have to save their best players for the game that's playing on Saturday against the Lions. I mean, they have to win that Lions game. So half the guys who would normally have played against Harlequins have been kept behind to make sure they can beat the Lions, so that he can make his owners and his and the public happy. So it is a juggling act all the time. But Flecky, we're missing the point. If we can't get our Springboks to be fit and strong for this Investec Cup game and play the URC as a development game, not development, but as to bring through talent, then we're not going to get it right.
I agree.
And you can't have 13 games with the Springboks at the level that they play all year. They can only then play another 6. Give them, say, put a cap of 21 games, 22 games on Eben Etzebeth.
Yeah.
And then pick your Investec Cup games. That's when you're going to play. Go away after the Springbok tour. Come back. Don't play the URC games. But when we're starting, I need you for that game against.
I agree with that.
I suppose. Look, the thing is, you see in this competition, Andre Pollard instrumental with the kicking. Danny Kerr, England international cap. With the kicking. It's a lot of his coaching. Saracens against the Bulls that win. The Bulls got their tactics completely wrong. Van Sale kicks everything down the field, whatever. So there are elements where it's a little bit of coaching error in terms of the Bulls game for me, Flecky, with that win blowing back there, I couldn't believe that there was no contestable kicks.
Yeah.
So now you take that, let's say you go down with a bit of a bonus point loss, you beat Northampton at home, then you're in the mix for the next round. Yeah. Then you can play your main teams and thinking, okay, now we're really chasing to get into play. If Stormers, Toulon, you lose that home game, then you go lose away from home. You basically blown out the now you're under pressure to win another 2 games away from home. And guess what you get as a reward in the top 16? A trip to Leinster, Toulouse, or La Rochelle, or Bordeaux, or something like that. That's why you probably need to win those games a little bit earlier.
Well, Shimmie, also what was a bit disappointing was it wasn't French teams that knocked us over this weekend. It's English sides. That was a bit disappointing. I think we should be beating them. We should be. They didn't do well in the first week of the competition, and suddenly Northampton comes here and beats us, and the other 2 knock us over by 50 points.
Let's talk about some of the English players. Alex Dombrandt from Harlequins, good.
He's playing against a Vodacom Cup time. Play him against the full Stormers team, and he's playing against Roos, Ben Jason Dixon, and Fourie. He's not going to be charging around like a Superman.
And he suits the Harlequin style, and it's nice and open, and it was an easy game, but certainly, different.
Most disappointing result from a South African point of view?
Bulls. Yeah, for me. I knew the other 2 weren't anticipating a win, but the Bulls definitely thought they were going to win that game. Yeah. And how can you not win it with 69% bloody territory in possession?
I've always felt they were going to lose that one, Nick.
Really?
I mean, that Northampton side can attack.
Oh, they can play.
They are a proper rugby team, and young. The youngest team in the Premiership.
Are they?
Yeah. Average age is 24.
What I loved was their little starter move. How's the starter move from that line-out drive? They came round and they played the blindside winger there in the hole.
Just running the hole in the second phase, same thing. No, it's an impressive.
That's why I mentioned earlier the thing about evolving. Flecky, Northampton for me almost looked like the better organised. Look, they got drilled in the scrums.
Yes.
They even got a yellow card. The Bulls had 10 entries in the first half. They couldn't convert any of them.
Yeah.
So eventually, you don't convert those chances. They're gonna fight back somewhere along the line.
We had one of our coaches from UCT spend a bit of time with them last week, and he just tried to get their mindset because he used to play there, Nick Groom.
Yeah.
And Chris Boyd, he had a massive influence on the Northampton way. And before him was Wayne Smith.
Yes, of course.
So they've got this whole thing, this Kiwi influence of just playing rugby and running rugby and running, holes.
Good lines.
And what they had to do was the current management have sort of brought it back a little bit, and they brought one or two things, trying to get their set piece a bit stronger, their kicking game stronger, but they're still with that core philosophy of playing this brand. And they're tough to play. I mean, they dominated that premiership last year. They're unbeaten in the Champions League now. Yeah. I mean, they're a good side and young. And young coaches.
Investec Champions Cup.
Sorry, Investec Champions Cup. But I'm saying, it's Shimmie, to the point of you don't always have to have an experienced side. How many English internationals are in that side? Courtney Laws has left them. Yeah. So they don't have...
Freeman, the two wings.
But they're young players.
On the bench.
And they're young coaching staff.
Finn, what's his name? Finn
He's the best 10.
He's a very
Smith. He is the best 10.
He's a good player. He's a complete player.
Well, okay, here we go. Better than Marcus Smith.
Yes.
You reckon he should be starting for England?
Yes.
You can certainly defend that channel.
Okay, your reasoning behind that?
No, look, Marcus Smith was outstanding in the international arena now. But when it comes to a complete 10 and the newcomer, he's a player, he's a star player that creates, opportunities for himself. When you look at a Finn Smith, he's like the complete 10 for me. Young 10 coming through. He's learning a lot from Marcus Smith, and I watched the interview, and they both help each other. But that guy's got the complete game. He is an outstanding young calf.
The great thing about a top fly-off creates for players outside him.
Correct.
He doesn't create for him. He's not looking for himself.
Correct.
It's when it opens up that he takes the job. But he's always looking to draw attention and to create space for other people. He does that. I've got a feeling that you get Marcus is looking for a little sidestep and a little show and go. And it's not on, then he passes. But I think Finn Smith is more Henry Honeyball than Marcus.
But now the Bulls, altitude, I just thought, 3 o'clock, the whole, the usual chat around playing in Pretoria, the heat, all of that, and they seem to manage it. I mean, the one flank's 19 years old.
And he played well. Proctor.
Pollock. Is it Henry Pollock? 19 years old.
Cricketer.
Yeah, playing at Loftus.
So he dominated the world, the under 20
captain last year.
So he dominated the under 20 World Cup here this year. Sorry, that he's an outstanding rugby player.
He's a real
outstanding. I mean, he's mixing it with some of the best in the world, and he's tough, scoring tries, making steals. The steal that he had on the weekend against the Bulls on Hanekom, he's a phenomenal young talent coming through.
Hanekom almost changed it by himself though.
And he's special. He is a special player. He can play, I think, in any three of those spots in the back row. That's where normally number 8s aren't as good at fetching. I certainly wasn't anywhere near. In those days, you didn't have to. But his ability, his speed, and his timing on the steal is good. He had obviously the most steals, the most meters made, and the most tackles in the game.
In a losing team.
It's exceptional.
Where do you fit him in the box, though?
Well,
someone made a good point saying, he could be the next Kwagga off the bench.
This is it. You get Marco van Staden and Kwagga. They're getting to the end of their careers. This guy could easily slip in there. He's not
similar role to Skinstead.
Yeah, better with respect to Bob, who was brilliant in the outside back situation, but he wasn't the turnover specialist of Bob. But this guy can really.
But I mean, he can have a huge impact on the bench.
And his steps and his offloads too. He's a very clever. He's always looking, but he doesn't always give it. So he's looking, and it's not on if there's traffic. But I'm incredibly impressed with that player. I think he's very, very.
Remember the Leicester game last year in the playoff when he smashed was it Keelan Doris?
Yes.
Yeah, defensively, he was. That's when everyone stood up and thought, gee whiz, okay, this guy's the real deal.
He's good, and he's young, and he's got time on his hands. He's going to get there, no question about it. Whether it's he's not a Vermeulen number 8, is he? But he could easily be. Russie sees him as a 7 and an 8, I hear. But jeepers, you have a 6 who's as quick around the field like Richie McCaw. I don't think he's much taller than Richie McCaw, is he?
No, he's a big kid. Stand next to Hanekom.
6'3".
He's a big boy.
Is he? Line-out option as well?
Yeah, line-out option. He can.
Would you not restrict him, Nick, as a 6, because then he's always, looking to service others, by fetching the ball, cleaning rucks, as opposed to being a strike player.
Exactly. Good point. Whereas he's playing number 8, he's doing a great job.
Yeah. The innovating thing. So obviously that's coaching. How do South African coaches catch up then to that? Because you're speaking about how, they've had a Wayne Smith, a Chris Boyd, at the influence that Michael Cheika's coached, international coach. You look all around from a South African point of view to upskill the guys. Is it more just personal development?
It is a bit of both, really. So, for me, the biggest lesson that I learned coaching is that, if you're trying to coach a style that is not your style or, that your players are accustomed to. So it was, the example of Rassie, right? Rassie came in, he's gone, I want to play the South African way. And he's fundamentally built a world-class team and the best team in the world at the moment on South African values and core strengths, right? But he's added a bit of flavour, with the introduction of Tony Brown. So that's smart, right? That's genius. The way world rugby's going at the moment, it's a lot more multi-phase at the moment. And he probably saw that coming. He probably realised, well, we can't just survive on a set piece in a kicking game and defensive game. So Tony's come in, and that has helped us, grow as a team. I think, so first things first as a coach is you got to play your way and you can't play the Toulouse way or the Leinster way. It's got to be the Stormers way or the Bulls way. But you can certainly bring in some outside influence and a little bit of taste of something that you haven't been exposed to as a coach or the players haven't been. And a different voice, an outside voice, getting a specialist in. Look, Leinster do it. They brought in Jacques Nienaber. They were struggling in terms of winning the the Investec Champions Cup. So they brought in a proper defence coach who's won a World Cup as a head coach. And he's bringing a different dynamic to Leinster. All the teams do it. Why can't we do what Rassie's doing and bring in a little bit of a foreign influence, whether it's from Ireland or from New Zealand, and bring that flavour that's probably allows us to upskill our players and our style to another level?
Yeah.
You don't agree?
No, I agree with you.
Okay.
No, I'm agreeing with you. I thought, Nick, what you wanted to say.
No, I was just thinking there's a financial aspect to it, of course.
Of course.
The rand isn't quite as strong as the pound if budget permitted.
Yeah.
A lot of our South African guys are going over there to earn more money. So our you've got Franco Smith over there, you've got Ackerman over there, you've got Van Graan over there. So they're all doing well. They're all doing well. So our guys are going there because that's where the money is. And unfortunately, in this country, it's hard to get a really talented young New Zealander or a really talented young Irish guy who could. We did. We got our defence coach at the last World Cup, who was his name, the Irish.
So we've done it at a level where we can afford it.
We can afford it. You see, the Boks can afford it.
Yeah.
But I don't think the Stormers can. For what it's worth, I think that probably the Sharks can and the Bulls can. And the Sharks have got a New Zealander, but he's a blend of New Zealand, South Africa, isn't he? John Plumtree.
Guys, we've been asked to pick our 15, our first 15, made up of South Africans playing in this competition outside the three home teams. So, Fleck, do you want to start 11 from fullback? Let's start from the back.
And also, they weren't allowed to be internationals like for Scotland, right? So
no, they're the South African. They could be internationals for Scotland.
Exactly. So it was quite tough.
You could have hauled in a Dwan van der Merwe.
Exactly. That's what I was going to.
Yeah.
But so
Carl
I
Steyn also. Carl Steyn, Duan.
Yeah.
So at the back I had Tyrone Green from Quins. He's again a player that suits the Quins style. Love watching him play. Really exciting player. He only played this last weekend now. Dylan Lades, for me, consistent performer for La Rochelle on the one wing. On the other wing, I had Abrahams from Munster. So he's done some nice little things. He's quite an exciting player. Not the Munster sort of type of typical Munster player, but unbelievable in pace. And then in the midfield, I had Janse van Rensburg, who I think has been outstanding for Bristol over the last 2-3 years. He's been phenomenal.
He qualifies for England in a year.
Does he? I tell you, he's dominated the Premiership for.
He's got the mallet,
Yes. And then I had Robert Dupree at 13, which he's completely out of position.
Yeah.
And it's funny how Sale use him in all three. He plays 13, 12 and 10. But, he played fairly well on the weekend. So that's who I had so far.
Nick, 6 to 10.
So you said I wasn't allowed to pick an international. I got Pollard, but he's not playing for us. So
outside the big three.
Outside the big three.
You can give us two. Outside of Pollard,
you could have Robert Dupree then at 10. Robert Dupree's doing well with I've got all the Duprees, in fact, in my stuff. Because Robert Dupree at 10, you got Ivan van Zyl, who's played really well for Saracens. And you mentioned the kicking game that he had, which is very effective. But he's become a very intelligent player over there under the Saracens' way of playing. And then at number 8, Jean-Luc Dupree.
Dupree, okay.
Dan Dupree at 7.
Augustus, maybe?
And then, that's a good call.
Played well,
That's a good
Yeah,
call. He is
Augustus
playing
played
well.
well. He's done
Yeah,
well.
that's a very good call. Yeah. Then where would you put? Because I had Liebenberg as well from Leinster.
Yeah. You can make...
They're 7 and 6.
Jaco Coetzee still around.
Yeah. That's. I missed out on because Trocky's been very good, hasn't he?
He has been.
Played
Yeah.
well. So we've got some good players over there that aren't performing for us.
Yeah. Okay, I had to pick the tight 5.
Yeah.
Lucid prop, it was Buan Fenter.
Yeah.
I could have picked Pierce Kuman.
Yeah.
Hooker, Rob Herring. It's the only hooker. So
Okay, is he only
it's
South
the
African?
only side. Him and Dan Uster plays for Pau. Tight prop, Thomas Tutoy. Lock went for Dave Ribbons. And as 5, sorry. And 4 could be Herbst or JJ Van der Mesh at... what is that? Stade Francais.
Stade Francais, yeah, that exactly. Can't remember his JJ, isn't it?
And
He was ex-Sharks boy, wasn't he?
Yeah, big guy, yeah.
Ribbons has been very good.
What's that?
Ribbons is
Ribbons
good,
is
eh?
good. Remember, we coached him at junior. He's always been good.
Yeah.
He should probably stay in the UK, I think. He's still got a lot to offer England. Because he can't get picked now because he's Toulon captain.
Toulon captain, yeah.
He was good against the Storm.
But that's a decent. I mean, you're not mentioning the Boks you aren't here.
No,
all those. Let's say you got Eches Snyman.
Yeah, I could have chosen Arce's
yeah,
name, and I thought,
yeah.
let me go for someone.
And then all the guys in Japan, but it was only in Europe, wasn't it? You only
Who are we picking for our head coach and assistant?
of that team.
Yeah.
Flecky, assistant. Nick Mallet, head coach.
That was always going to be... I didn't have
It
a
wasn't
chance.
going to be the other way around.
It wasn't going to be the other way around.
Skalkberger, Jean de Villiers, we could do them as well.
Waterboy.
Water boys.
Who would you pick? Franco? I'm trying to think.
Yeah.
Franco?
He's been the most
Frank-
outstanding side.
Yeah.
He has been outstanding. He really has.
I love the way they play. Glasgow are a joy to watch.
Yeah.
And every team that he's coached,
Yeah.
Cheetahs,
Yeah.
Glasgow,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Even Italy, he tried to give it a go.
Well, it was more Treviso that he did really well with. He got Treviso into that top 8,
Yeah.
and but he was very unlucky with his timing with the Italian national team because he picked all the youngsters and wanted to play, but they just didn't have the experience.
Yeah.
And he took a couple of 50-pointers, and unfortunately they lost patience too early with him because he was then made director of rugby. Did a great job at the institute, brought these guys through who are now playing for Italy, and then got that opportunity. But it's a big, that was a brave decision. Eh?
Yeah.
He didn't take any assistant coaches with him, didn't take any players with him. He went straight into there as head coach and worked with what he got.
Oh,
and they didn't qualify for the Champions Cup, I think, in the year before. Might have just qualified, and in his year they. No, that's right. They hadn't qualified because he got them to a semi-final, I think, of the European Cup.
But you look at his record here. They were winless in 12 games, Glasgow, until he took over.
Really?
Yeah.
Winless in 12 games
Gee.
until he took over. And look at the turnaround now. URC champs fighting the loss by a point against Toulon, which is a hard place
How's
to
that
win.
self-belief?
Yeah.
The belief in that team is extraordinary.
And it's actually helped the Scottish team in terms
Yeah.
of how physical they are.
Absolutely.
And all of that.
I mean, beyond Rassie, is he a future candidate?
When is beyond Rassie? How old is Rassie? How old is Rassie in his
Rassie's only
55?
No, Rusty's 50. Flick, he's how old are you now?
49.
Yeah.
49.
I think he's 2 years older than
A
you.
couple of years old. You see, 10 more years there, so he might go back to director of rugby and haul in someone underneath him again. You can't really see South African rugby without Rassie at the moment.
No, you
can
can't.
You can't, yeah.
And certainly to get a guy in who's independent from Rassie, it will be quite complicated.
Yeah, I think internally he's probably they look at someone within the management team now.
Exactly.
And then Rusty's director, and as long as they work well together, similar to what happened with Jacques.
Yeah, sticky.
Probably be from Zonny and Stick.
Yeah, I think so. He's
be
had
the
all
guy.
that experience, 8 years.
Are there any forwards coaches, South Africans, coaching in the Investec Champions
Van
Cup?
Graans's a forwards coach, isn't he?
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. So
Well, you had
there's
Ackerman as
your
well.
assistant.
Ackerman was over there.
Yeah.
I thought,
So there's your assistant.
Yeah. Van Graan and Franco Smith.
Yeah.
Cool, guys. Let me just have a quick look here. Toulouse, we mentioned them.
Sure.
Exeter, 64-21.
Sure.
You'd be nervous playing any team playing Toulouse at the moment.
That is the most phenomenal rugby team.
It is.
On
Sharks
earth at
play
the
them at home. Imagine that. If they don't go in with their full Springbok...
We're going to be there in the Investec box. Thank you very much.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful.
Do you want to come, Flecky?
I haven't been invited.
Okay. Would you come? Would you come?
Yeah.
Yes, I definitely.
Is it?
Yeah.
That would be nice, though. That would be...
That is going to be a humdinger. That's going to be an absolute cracker because the Sharks need to win that. They need to
load that team.
Yeah, they've got to
That's test
play.
match.
Absolutely.
That's test match quality there. That's big.
You know, having done a bit of research on them lately, the brand of rugby that they play is phenomenal. It's a blend of this powerhouse pack with linking loose forward.
And the champagne, the
Their
French,
ability
the
to
French
keep the
flavor.
ball
Offload.
alive in the wide channel is phenomenal. I mean, it's
Their first try was unbelievable.
and their whole thing is around style of play. So their purpose is their style. They don't reinvent the wheel every year and go,
No.
you know, this is going to be our drive or purpose this year, something else the next. It's style.
Every coach has to play that style of
I
rugby.
think that is how you build a legacy and you know, something of the future.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal to watch.
Nick, the French celebrations, I mean, you're successful in France. It seems like when you watch from a distance, they probably party harder than everyone else when they win a trophy.
Yeah, no, the French boys, but remember, it's very tribal. In France, it's your town, it's your city. So you're going to every pub and every guy's buying you a drink. I mean, it's just extraordinary. The whole town is so pleased when you do well. Yeah. So Toulon or Toulouse or Clermont or La Rochelle, you know, you're playing for that whole city. You've got to live there. You're in that city. You walk around on the Monday having played badly over the weekend. It's not a nice place to be. So very, very focused. And when they win, the relief and the pleasure that they give each other, the players give to the spectators and vice versa is just tremendous. Very much a Latin feel too, you know, a bit like Argentina, Italy, and France, very similar in terms of the passion with which they support their teams. I mean, you were at the World Cup. You saw what happened when Etzebeth pulled that ball back, according to the referee.
Yeah.
The crowd didn't stop booing for 5 minutes.
And they us at the Olympics.
Exactly, at the Olympics, 6 months later.
Yeah. No, apparently some of the players, they struggled to recover from the
Yeah.
It was almost, they believed that it was their World Cup.
Absolutely. I know that Fabien Galtier just took himself off for 2 weeks somewhere, just tried to get lost up in just didn't want to see anyone. I mean, it's just emotionally draining when your whole focus for 4 years has been on that home World Cup. Everyone's talking about it. No one's even considering that you won't get into a final. You know, you definitely get in the final. It's just a question of whether you're going to beat Ireland or New Zealand. That's what they thought. And it was just when they just couldn't believe it.
Each week of the Investec Champions Cup will be highlighting out of the ordinary moments for players that have really stood out for us. So let's put one forward, guys. Look, there's not many from a South African point of view. Nick?
From us, Hanekom for the Bulls, 2 tries on his own. He was outstanding in that game. I mean, most offloads, most tackles, most meters made. Came off the field. He could hold his head high. Most of his other players couldn't.
Yeah, I agree with that. And he's been phenomenal of late. And then also another player, probably Ethan Hooker.
Yeah.
Shark centre, probably a position that I like to see him more in.
Yeah, me too.
You know, he's nice and hard and direct.
Inside, outside centre?
No, he played outside on the weekend, didn't he? But that's a position that I could see him in the future. I think on the wing, you know, you probably want somebody who's a bit more, you know, free with a bit more pace. He's nice and strong in the midfield. He's something a player.
Ticks all the boxes.
Yeah.
Ticks all the boxes.
He has got pace, though, Fleck. I saw him. He really is fast. There was a kick ahead once, and he just went straight past the winger.
That's great.
He's got that as well.
Yeah. James, just to wrap it up, obviously a slump this weekend. Can we bounce back? Can the South African teams bounce back?
No.
I think the Bulls can. Let me just come in here quickly. The Bulls have got Castres away.
Yeah.
You know, Castres away. If they can get a 4-point out of that, Stade Francais are going to send a B team here. They'll get 5 points for Stade Francais. They could get 9 points. They could get there because will Munster win? I don't know if Munster's going to get another win in the next 2 games.
So even the Bulls losing 2 games, you feel that they...
Well, if you win, they have to win the next 2.
Sharks have
got the most points.
Yeah.
Also, the Sharks team with the
Toulouse,
the big dogs.
Toulouse at home, Bègle Bordeaux away. You can get 0 and 0 very quickly there.
And those 2 teams have been giving the other opposition 50 and 60 every weekend.
Yeah.
No, definitely. Yeah. And unfortunately, the Stormers are just, you know, too many injuries.
Yeah.
It's tough for them.
Yeah.
You're going back to your work function now?
Yeah.
Enjoy. How was the first 49th over the weekend at Tintwala?
Sure. That was interesting.
No anxiety as usual. Okay.
I had anxiety for 2 days. Yeah.
So it was that good.
Oh my word!
Nice.
What a wonderful place.
Yeah, it's beautiful on the water.
On the water, yeah. No,
I heard you the big dogs booked the whole place out, eh?
yeah, for 3 days. I was only there for 2.
Cheapest.
Crayfish, oysters, champagne.
It was,
Robbie
it
Fleck with the
was, it
sunglasses.
was childish, yeah. It was childish. It was amazing. Unbelievable experience. That is the most unique place in Cape Town. It's world class.
Cool, there's Fleck.
But I'm glad it's done.
Okay, and Nick, yourself, good luck with the rehab and all. It's still a long road to go, but improving every day.
I'm good to go. Still got my sense of humor. That's most important.
Missing the golf.
I'm missing the golf. I'm missing walking.
Yeah.
But it's just I've just got to sit fast now for another 6 weeks, 2.5 months, unfortunately. End of February, then I'm good to go.
Cool. Thanks, Flecky. Thanks, Nick.
Thanks, Sean.
That's it for the box office. Thank you to Investec for sponsoring the show. We'll be back in January after Christmas. Merry Christmas, everybody, from the box office, which is now closed.